Please pause and read the following. Viewer discretion is advised. Whenever I first started this video, I had something very different in mind. Usually when I sit down to write these scripts, it's mostly driven by self-passion and a curiosity to understand all sides of the argument. But this time, I want to use this format to be more direct and upfront with you, more literal in my approach, to pay this the respect that it deserves. Hey everyone, it's Hawks, and welcome back to Hawks Talks. Today we'll be talking about something rather serious, so if you missed the content warning, please be aware of the following. This was made purely for educational purposes and with no ill intent in mind, simply to raise awareness. Please do not harass any of the people/parties mentioned. This video contains sensitive topics relating to LGBTQIA+ censorship and the ostracization of homosexual and transgender presence in media. If these circumstances are triggering to you, please click off of the video now. This is your final warning. After I finished reading Tallstar's Revenge, I had a lot of questions. And while I'd wager that not many of you have read it for yourselves, I'd bet that almost everyone watching is at least familiar with Tallstar and Jake, the gay cats you keep seeing in fan art and memes that look like this. They're not only iconic in the fandom, but almost synonymous with homosexuality and queer representation in warrior cats. And it's clear to see that the fanbase has a lot of love for these characters, inspiring all of these incredibly talented artists. However, really outside of the fandom, the book itself is rather vague on whether or not Tallstar and Jake are actually a couple, almost purposefully and intentionally in spite of what some of the characterization leads us to believe. Tallstar and Jake are definitely in love. They even share a nest with each other for basically the entirety of the time they're together in the story. And there are lines that you simply can't write off, like when Tallstar literally said, "Every cat I loved," specifically in reference to Jake. But the book always dismisses them as just being friends, sometimes almost immediately after any indication of the potential feelings that they may have for each other, never leaning into or endorsing the two as a legitimate couple. And as much as I want to tell you how much I love this book, this subtext and coding simply leaves me with a very sour taste in my mouth. And I wanted to know why. In a now infamous set of posts from Cary on her official website BlogClan, the author provides us with a little more insight into how and why Warrior Cats books are written. Among the useful bits of information about the general writing process and Aaron Hunter's pre-production pipeline, she responds to a question over potentially including same-sex relationships in future books. However, rather bluntly, she puts, "Our market extends to countries who still oppose same-sex marriage, so we are unable to include same-sex relationships in the stories." And in a rather fortunate bit of irony, in a later response to what that means for the canonicity of Tallstar x Jake, she would then go on to write, "Inside my head, they are a couple. Inside the publisher's head, they are just good friends. That's the great thing about having your own head." Tallstar's Revenge is very well written by Cary. I'd even go as far as to say that it's one of my favorite super editions I've ever read. The grand focus on Tallstar's life as a whole in comparison to modern super editions was refreshing. It breaks cliches and defies expectations in a way that realizes the true potential of the series, and yes, I still do love Tallstar and Jake. So why detract from all of that so greatly with such a massive corporate blunder? And entirely at a detriment to what the person writing the book actually thought about the characters. By no means am I calling HarperCollins nor working partners homophobic. Rather, the problem lies in their compliance to an anti-inclusivity market purely for profit in countries who still oppose same-sex marriage. While on the surface, HarperCollins allows LGBTQIA+ content under their name and will go out of their way to promote some of these books to their English-speaking audience, they'll never make an exception for anything as large as Warriors is on the global scale, completely out of fear of losing sales from those certain countries, with its heaviest loss weighing on the Russian translated books, which have already covered a vast stretch of the series, while Russia itself prohibits promoting LGBTQ relationships to minors strictly under federal law. Warrior Cats is intended for children, after all. And with the series in Russian getting up to as far as the end of A Vision of Shadows, I think it's safe to say that they probably won't be giving this one up anytime soon, with the obvious state of current world affairs aside, of course. We don't know how much of a say HarperCollins gets over Warriors, or more specifically, how much influence they have over the drafts. But they were the company that originally approached Vicky Holmes, the creator of Warrior Cats, with the idea for the series. And if those posts from Cary are anything to go by, it sounds like they get the final say, even over what the authors think, and are a crucial part of the developmental process that affects the stories even before they get outside of their publishing jurisdiction. But arguably the much more damning piece of evidence for any publisher looking to make it, even in the United States, would have to be the advent of banned books, and how they continue to perpetuate an endless wave of hate through decades of progress. In this official article from the American Library Association, compiled are the lists of the most challenged books in the US since 1990. The term challenged books referring to information based on reports and media stories in opposition to particular novels. From 2000 to 2009, there were 361 challenges to books for homosexuality. 31 of the most challenged books from 2001 to as recent as 2015 cite homosexuality as a specific reason for a potential book ban, with the term LGBTQIA+ being mentioned in reasons for 18 individual books as well. In 2021, which was last year, half of the top 10 most challenged books of the year were banned for containing LGBTQ+ content, and the top 3 that ranked the highest on this list of complaints out of a reported 1,597 targeted books all cited LGBTQ+ as a reason as well. And in 2019, 8 of the 10 most challenged books of the year all had something to do with containing LGBTQ+ content. You can look at these numbers for yourself if you want. I've linked all of my sources in the description. These issues absolutely exist, even outside of countries that outright ban same-sex relationships in media. And yes, even still in the United States. If you're just now hearing about this, or never knew how bad this really was, I imagine you're just as shocked as I was whenever I found this out for myself. It's blatant censorship. Homosexuality and transgenderism is a growing facet of our modern society, and it deserves a platform for discussion without the fear of outright being silenced. Shunning it and trying to get rid of it in our media only adds to the controversy and oppresses the freedom of expression and understanding of knowledge that the foundations of literature were built upon. LGBTQ people exist, and there's nothing inherently wrong with their inclusion in media. But do not hate those in certain countries that are still battling the same issues we all have to this day. Everyone deserves to know these stories just the same as anyone else, and regardless of your beliefs, we're all only human. This exceeds far beyond just warrior cats. And though we may never know who exactly is stopping these relationships from being in the books, it's time we stop dancing around the issue and give queer people the affirmation they deserve. Canon representation matters, and we can't keep leaving that up to a blog post.